Oh, sorry, you just caught me enjoying a delicious cold beverage on a hot day after a hard day's work. This is, of course, one of my favourites. It's actually a type of a Mexican soda. It's Jaratos, one of the classic brands, right? Made with real sugar, cane sugar from Mexico. None of that artificial sweetener that the usual companies like to get. Everything about it, the taste, the flavour feels kind of natural, really hits the spot. Kind of similar to how CS.MONEY is a complete skins ecosystem. In the same way, this is the complete package as a drink. It's got the flavour, it's got a little bit of sweetness, it's got ingredients that don't make you feel a bit terrible. In the same way, CS.MONEY with its complete skins ecosystem, it's one of the oldest brands, Jaratos, there's a classic right there. It has 24/7 support on hand, ready to help you should you need it. Isn't that refreshing? Now, the new challenger stage, phase as they call it, of the Starladder Berlin major, the 15th CSGO major, has been and gone. It was obviously mainly last week in case you missed it. Now, luckily, most of the big names made it through, the big favourites that you expected to. There weren't too many crazy upsets. There were a few which we'll talk about. So this is another video where to preview the next phase of the tournament, which is the new Legends stage, with down to the last 16 teams. The top 8 will become the Legends of this major. The bottom 8 will drop back out to the new Challenger stage for next major, which we don't know which company's going to have that yet, but it's going to be the first major of 2020. You can already go and look on Wikipedia and see when the dates are. I think it was something like around May or something. So let's go into CS and we'll check out how I did with my picks on the first phase, and then we'll do the next set. Right, so here we are in Counter-Strike. If you will just go quickly to my pick'em before, as I told you, I always do the 3-0 as a team I legit think is the team that's most likely to get 3-0. I picked Vitality like a lot of people would assume they were the heavy favourite number 2 team in the world. They actually only ended up getting through 3-2. They had to go all the way to the decider match. So that ended up being a bad pick. And obviously that doesn't count for me as a correct pick'em. But luckily I'm a baller. So I don't need Vitality to get through to actually get the correct 5 pick'ems that they are. Because I had Mouse Sports correct. They were a 3-0 team. I had North correct. 3-0 team. By the way, remember I actually picked these in order that I went. But to be fair, I probably would have put NRG before North. I had Furia, who's done pretty well over the summer. But actually, surprisingly, were pretty terrible at this tournament. NRG, I just thought with that level of skill, how they're not going to get through. G2 played surprisingly well, even though it was touch and go towards the end in terms of when they were playing against Forza. Crazy, I actually think just played pretty well like most people expect. They're a team with a bunch of players in form right now. And then a Vanguard I picked last. If you remember, I was almost going to pick Ty Lue there, who actually fucking shit the bed big time. But people were asking me, why not Forza? Maybe they can do something. What about these CIS teams? What about Hellraisers? Like, the reason I picked the Vanguard is I thought they'll just grind it out, won't they? They'll just get enough of the wins. Like, they'll have just a good enough performance from Jamin quicker, and they'll manage to just get through, and they did. Now, the Greyhound didn't go 0-3, fair play to them. They went to the decider match themselves. I thought they were going to be terrible and go 0-3. It was actually INTZ that was really terrible out of most of the teams in this tournament. The problem with that one is INTZ has KNG, and I thought if KNG pops off for one map, they can win a best of 1, can't they? So the 0-3 and 3-0 are actually the hardest ones to predict because of the best of 1 component. But as you saw there, I got 6 of the 7 here correct, and then I got neither of the 3-0 and the 0-3s. So if we go now to the new Legends phase, I'll do the same format I did before. What I'll do that I didn't do as well in the other video is I'll try and do more of a rundown of all the teams than just explain why I'm picking them. So as we pick them, we'll talk about them, right? So again, teams that will go 3-0 and 0-3. I like to do these ones first myself personally, get them out of the way, and then I decide in the middle who the other 7 teams are going to be. So the team that's going to go 3-0, there's only one choice. And the reason why there's one choice is not only is this team the favourite for the major, but they literally don't even lose maps very often at the moment. They're at some crazy thing like, 86% win rate, even over maps or something. So they are so absurdly the favourite to get 3-0. I don't even care whether they will or what. It's, of course, Team Liquid. They have the best map pool in the world, one of the best map pools in history, quite frankly, in terms of win rates. Sure, in terms of competency on the map or playing style that suits the map, probably not up there with some of the classic teams, but an extremely good team. Firepower is unprecedented, I think, ever in CSGO history. They have one of the best players in the world at the moment in OllieJ. Then as a luxury, they have someone like Twists on the side. Then they have someone like Naf can win MVPs at tournaments. Absurdly good team. They've also won like 6 of the last 7 tournaments. They won something like 5 titles in a row coming into this event. The last time they lost a best of 3 series was way back at CS Summit in the final. And aside from that, they're not even losing series ever, even though some of these tournaments are double elim components of the tournament. So absurdly good team, easily picking them to go 3-0. Now we've got to pick the 0 and 3 team. Now I thought this would be tough because I'm thinking, fucking hell, like there's always like a weird team there. It's not tough for this phase because the obvious teams to pick are these 2 teams, a Vanguard or Dream Eaters. Now you could say Crazy as well, but I think the overall skill level of Crazy means the chances they go 0 and 2 and don't win a single best of 1, I don't know about that. I mean, in the first matchup, Crazy plays Team Liquid, so odds are they're going to lose that one. Can they lose another best of 1? Yeah, but are they going to get eliminated in a best of 3 by a nobody team? There's not really many nobody teams here, quite frankly. Would they? I think, quite frankly, Crazy can at least match up with, I think, at least 3 or 4 teams here. Like, I think if they go against NIP, they could probably win that match. If they go against North, it'll be a pretty competitive game. Possible Mouse, so their players don't always go off. That could be an interesting matchup. G2, they certainly could compete with. A Vanguard, they could beat outright. Dream Eaters, I think they would beat outright. ENCE, I'd be very interested to see where the fuck ENCE's head's at right now when they're kicking Alexi B. So maybe there's a possibility someone like Crazy can beat them. You obviously have, I don't know that FaZe would lose to them. Renegades absolutely could. They sometimes are having firepower issues. MIBR is a bit of a mess in what I've called Zera. They could lose to them. So I'm definitely not taking Crazy to be my 0 and 3 team. I actually think probably they'll make it through. So really for me, it's between a Vanguard and Dream Eaters. And as much as I'd criticised the Vanguard before, I think they're a much more consistent team than Dream Eaters. Props to Dream Eaters for making it this far. They said they watched a lot of demos. They did their homework. Still not really buying it. Like a lot of it for me was that they won those 2 best of 1s. And I think they won 2 best of 1. Yeah, I think they did. In very close fashion. Reminded me a lot of Quantum Bellator Fire, just scrape and buy. And I don't really buy that they're going to do anything. I certainly don't think they can actually... Like, I just think they're the biggest favourite to go 0-3. So I'm going to go ahead and take Dream Eaters as my 0-3. You'll note I didn't take them in the last phase. I actually didn't want to gamble on an unknown CIS team. They're the ones most likely to get a random upset nowadays. So now let's go through all the other teams and pick who we're going to take. So I'll go in order again. So if we're talking about teams that are definitely going to get out, right, this is already going to be contentious. I'm actually just going to go ahead and do some of the teams that in the world rankings are high up, right? So I'm going to take as my first team to make it out after that, Vitality. Now, I know what you're thinking, but now look like how bad they did in the past phase. Look how they even struggled against Greyhound towards the end. Like, what the fuck's going on? They lost Overpass, one of their best maps, to Greyhound. Listen, there's pressure when you're in these scenarios. Just surviving is what the pressure is. Also, rookie in-game leader and rookie superstar player. You can expect some underperformance, some issues in getting adjusted to it. But first of all, they've already done that. They've done that week. There's teams like Astralis who've had to have a week off. Team Liquid have had a week off. This team should be coming in prepped with some of the issues worked out. I think they're still going to be one of the best teams in the tournament. So I'm taking them to get out. Great map pool, fantastic fragging from Ziwu, players that know what they're doing. They match up well against all the teams here. They've actually even been a favourite against ENCE when they've played them recently. They've beaten Astralis a couple of times. I think this is a great team to pick at this point in time if you want to take someone to get out. So I'm going to take Vitality all day long. Now, because of ENCE's problems and the firepower issues, I'm not going to take ENCE next, even though in my world rankings, ENCE are third. I'm going to take Astralis next. Listen, as much as Astralis hasn't been in a big final since they came out, only devices playing at God tier level, Magisk some good play, some of the others struggling. The tactics are still there. The routine generally is still there. The map pool's definitely shrunk a lot. It's nowhere near unbeatable, but it's still all right. Now, they're not the best on any of the maps, but that's not what this phase is about. This is just about survival. They should still be good enough to be able to do this, to get out. I'm pretty confident they're going to. I'd be shocked if they fell out at this stage. I think they're going to fall apart in the quarters of the semis, but I think they will get through this phase of the tournament, especially given the chance to play 2 or 3 best of 3s. They're going to win one of those and get through. So I'm taking Astralis quite comfortably. Now, my next team... This is where it starts to get interesting, doesn't it? Because do you still take ENCE, even knowing what you know about Alexi B and them? Because listen, they were still a quality squad. They still made the IM Chicago final. They were still able to beat Heroic. They were still able to have great success during most of the summer. They were able to beat teams like Vitality in the past even. Obviously, they were able to go head-to-head with like Team Liquid briefly before the org nerf. I still think they'll make it through. They've got the quality in the team. I actually think the fact that Alexi B knows he's going, he'll just play fairly free. I don't think that they'll necessarily have infighting. I think they'll just play. At this phase, they'll get through. Maybe they have to script through and get on the 3-2 match. Who knows? But I think they've still got the quality in the team to make it through overall. I'll then go ahead and I'm going to take Na'Vi. Now, the reason I'm taking Na'Vi is, yeah, I've only seen one tournament with them, but quite frankly, Boomich looked like an upgrade over Edward. Simple, still amazing. Zeus still runs the same style, picks the same maps. The rest of the players have been in the squad a long time now. You look at the quality of the side, man for man, they're not a terrible team, and they've also got the best player in the world, arguably. I don't think he's necessarily got enough maps played at the moment to take that status. I'd probably have to hand it to Ziwu because he's played like 3 times more maps or something. 2.5 times as many maps. But I still think Na'Vi's got the quality. They've still got a solid map pool, even though it's definitely shrunk a lot from last year. They can play a lot of maps against a lot of teams. They should make it through here. They're also a good best-of-3 team that don't lose that often. I'll then say, got 3 spots left. So we've got FaZe, MIBR, Renegades, NRG, NiP, North, Mouse, G2, Avangar, and Crazy. So of all these teams here, I feel like the next most likely team to make it out, let me see. FaZe still has players that are quality and can do it, obviously. MIB I'm not really feeling. Renegades is in a bad spot. I've really gone off them. NRG's got the quality, but actually we're a little bit underwhelming in the last phase, to be honest. And actually the Stanislaw era in general, I don't really see where the upgrade is. Sometimes he frags better, but then some of the other players frag worse. So it feels like it ends up being a wash largely. But they have a pretty deep map pool. They are a solid enough team. NiP's in shambles. They're still a question what they could possibly get out of this group. Still got some good players. Rez, Forest can be good. I think they're a bit more questionable. North obviously looked great in the other phase, and they sometimes look good against lesser teams. They've had a hard time actually properly beating top teams, but they've been pretty solid. They're a bit more questionable because of how many good teams are in this phase. Mouse Sports is a team on the up and up and up and up. And I know each tournament that they have their big highs, they still have that one match or one map that goes terribly. But look how many maps they play. Look at the fact that they've even flexed into Vertigo, as I expected Carrigan would, to have a tricky map pool and force bans out of people. You look at how the young players are coming along. Frozen was the guy you expected the least from. He's already showing big performances. Rops looks like a very good player in this team. Then you have, obviously, Woxic is a bit more streaky, but he's so exceptional when he's on, and he's such a dynamic player with that very fast flicking style that he can take over a game. Carrigan's doing his job, playing very smart. Chris J is a good role player. I think Mouse Spot's a pretty solid pick to get through. Actually, I could have picked them ahead of some of the other ones. It's just obviously they haven't done as much against the top teams. They tended to have lost games, except when they're playing the phases of the world. Some of the squads here, you wouldn't expect them to beat a Team Liquid and Astralis and Na'Vi necessarily right now at this point in time. Obviously, they had their chances against Na'Vi at ESL 1 close. I'm going to take Mouse Spots. On average, I feel like I'm confident they can make it through. Right, for the last 2 spots, this is where it gets tricky. Because if I just want to go with name value, I could just go ahead and chuck like FaZe in there. Maybe I chuck G2 in there. Maybe I just go ahead and chuck in NRG. But we've only got 2 spots left here, boys. So we're going to have to narrow this down. Right, first of all, I've got to say, all of these teams are in shambles with the exception of Avangar, they are just who they are. And I would probably say NRG, because NRG, like, they're not much worse. They're about the same. So NRG on paper, in theory, should be good. They've actually never been good at majors, which is worth pointing out. But I don't really know why that should necessarily kill them at this phase of the tournament. It's also hard to bet on a team like FaZe. So I have to say, in terms of, like, team strength, I should probably pick NRG. And then in terms of form and how players look coming in, I should pick Crazy. But I don't know, actually. So many of them inexperienced at this phase of a tournament. They'll almost certainly have to play, I think, more than one best of 3 when you consider the quality of the field. So will they actually win that? If this was a DreamHack Open and they played any of these tournaments, or a bigger tournament and early in the tournament, I might pick them to win a best of 3 against these squads. But I do think the newness of the major, their inexperience, their lack of like just having played enough matches as a team, I think it might cost them. So it's making them feel a bit more questionable to me. The problem is, who do I pick over them? Like G2 looks ropey as fuck sometimes. I don't think a Vanguard can grind out of this particular. There's not many teams they should actually beat in a series here. North is, they're so up and down, it's hard to pick them. MIB, I'm just not going for it at all. If they can do it, I'll tip my hat. I'll say, what a miracle run. I don't see it happening. NiP, I don't think it's going to happen. Renegades, not going to happen. FaZe, it could happen. So realistically, it's between NRG, G2, and Crazy. And I'm picking 2 of the 3. So I've got to say, just because I actually like the systems that they've put in place for how the team runs, with Amanek as an in-game leader, Shock's having some freedom, the other players seem to be getting their form back, Jax has actually played well above form in some of the matches I've seen, Lockie's had his problems, but he's a role player, whatever. I actually feel like G2 is going to make it, but I think I'll pick them. Nah, fuck it, I'll pick them at this point. I'll say G2's going to get out. I know it sounds crazy, G2 makes Legends spot, because actually they're probably a bit overrated as a squad, because people keep just thinking of when they were in the fucking EPL final and how great they were against Team Liquid. I'll give you a spoiler. They've been much better against Team Liquid than any of the other elite teams. And in fact, they sometimes struggle against the middling teams, and even some teams that are supposed to be a bit below them in the rankings. But something just tells me, like, I think their map pool's getting decent enough. I like the structure. Some of the pieces, obviously, they've got some rookies, but they've got some very established players. It's been a while since you've seen Kenny or Shocks in the playoffs of a major. Obviously, last time would actually be with G2 at early 2018 E-League Boston, where they made it and then famously lost to Cloud9. I think they make it out, believe it or not, but I think they probably do it on, and they're an edge case. I think they probably win at least one best of one and then just get the right series. Maybe they get to play North, or they get to play, I don't know, Na'Vi or NRG, and somehow they win one of these series and they get through. So I'm going to say G2 does it, actually. So now I'm going to pick essentially between FaZe, NRG, and Crazy, right? In terms of quality, if I go by quality of team, I should pick NRG. If I go by current form, I should pick Crazy. I just don't think it's going to last for Crazy. I think currently, actually, they're a pretty good team in terms of the field here, even. I'm going to say NRG. I'm going to go safe NRG. Now, that's not even as safe as FaZe, because FaZe has made the fucking legend status so many times. They've got so many legendary players that can do it. They're going to hold their nerve, aren't going to choke under pressure. But I'm going to say NRG doesn't shit the bed at the fucking major for once in their lives. Stanislaw actually gets to be top 8, not on complexity, like he should have been back in the days on Optic. And I think that's the one that they make overall. So there we go. I'll lock my picks in. This video was kindly supported by Patrick Ribeiro, Penguin Off 9, Dean Tanglis, Andreas Snazore Westerlund, Fat Guy got 24 ADR in an online qualifier, Lee Chaolan, Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer, JDubs, Chi Mao, Tobias Bernasconi, NateDOhDoubleG, Alexander Rao, Kolja G, and as always, special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Now, do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Obviously, I have quite a varied output. Do you want to ask me a question for my monthly video AMA? Maybe you want teasers, see who the guests are on my next shows. Do you want to take part in a donator discussion with me about esports? Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Scrilluminati today. In the description box below, there's a Patreon link.